Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar Putting OKRs into Practice, hosted by Projectum. This somehow early morning Copenhagen time. Welcome, and please be informed that we're also recording the session, and the session will, as a recording, be available afterwards for people that would like to see it. Welcome again, and today's topic is all about resource management, putting OKRs, objectives, and key results into practice. Maybe start with a little background. For many years, we have had project portfolio management running as an exercise for many companies all around the world. The last 3-4 years, PPM went into SPM, strategic portfolio management. And why? Because we see customers, companies like you out there that are actually focusing more and more on managing strategy rather than projects. So in today's session, we will talk about putting strategy into a project portfolio management system so that we can manage the strategy of a company and thereby probably also the work that is connected to the strategy. Some of you out there, you maybe have your strategy put into a PowerPoint. Maybe you have put it into an Excel. Maybe you don't call it an objective and key result. You don't call it OKR. Maybe you call it must-win battles. Maybe you call it my ambition, my mission, my vision of my company. So strategy can have many different words put to it. Today, we will talk about OKR, like objectives and key result. Then we also know that some of you is also looking for a replacement tool for Microsoft Viva Goals. So Microsoft has announced that Viva Goals, which is the strategy OKR tool that Microsoft has as a part of the Office 365, it will actually be decommissioned. So in next year, it will not be available for customers. So if you are an existing Microsoft Viva Goal customer, you're using Viva Goals to manage your strategy, then you should be aware that Microsoft will decommission it in 2027, meaning that you need to find somewhere else to manage your strategy. Of course, you could always go back to Excel, you can go back to PowerPoint, or you could also join today's session where the focus will be also for Viva Gold customers. How can Viva Gold customers actually work with the Projectum XPM product that take care of strategy? So that's it. Right on the front page, if you want to learn more about the Viva Gold transition, you can always contact Projectum and we can take a one-to-one, directly tell you how we can migrate and move you out of Viva Goals into Projectum XPM. So with that said, let's kick off and deep dive into the world of strategy, objectives, and key result. First of all, anytime I do some kind of keynote speech at the stage, if you talk about a book, then you're some kind of a knowledge person. So why not talk about books and OKR? It's important to understand what is OKR. I assume many of you already know what OKR is, but basically it's a goal setting of your company. You will put up an objective for your company, and with that objective, you're going to push your organization towards that objective. So if the objective of my life is to have a better life, I need to do something about it, right? Happy life does not just happen. So we need all to work hard to make things happen. And that is actually what OKR is all about, that put up an objective, start measuring it with a key result, and connect work like projects so that the progress of those initiatives will have an effect on your strategy, on your direction for your company. Take a Google time, go to ChatGPT, ask anything about OKR. It's a standard methodology. You can even be certified in OKR. So I'll not talk that much about how to do OKRs. I will show you today how to do it and put it into the context of the Project Portfolio Management Office. First of all, any PowerPoint in any company will start by having a mission and vision. And it sounds like fluffy, and mission and vision are fluffy. That's why we have them. It will set a direction, probably some years in the future. But I'm gonna dwell a little talking about the differences between KPIs and OKRs, because when I talk with customers, there is a lot of discussion. Some companies, they think, okay, I have some KPIs. Is that OKRs? Basically, a KPI is measuring a process, right? So it's important to distinguish that a KPI, a key performance indicator, will measure a process, where an OKR is actually measuring an advancement, work being done in the company. So basically work being done, not a process. It's also important to look into the OKR formula, because we have put up this very simple formula that actually will define the OKR. So we will, with an objective, measure the key result, and then we will connect some work in our company directly to it. So you could somehow call it what, when, and how. And if we put that into the context of objectives and key result and initiatives, we need to come a little closer to make mission and vision that is very fluffy into something tangible that we actually can start discuss and we can start measure. So a guideline could be that you should have no more than 5 objectives for your company. Some will say 7, some will say 3 is too small, but it's important that you don't come up with 88 must-win battles, like objectives. We need to keep it somehow simple. Talking about the key result, it must have an owner, and it's also important that we can measure it. So very, very important, an objective, you cannot measure an objective, but a key result that is connected to an objective, it is possible to measure it. So you can either measure it with number, percentage, currency. So that could be, I want to earn 100% more, I want to earn 1 million more, or I'm going to double up my earnings twice. It's also important when we do a key result and start doing a measure that we have a baseline. So if I want to have 100 customers more, my baseline is maybe 300 customers, and I want to go to 400 customers. So we will set up a baseline and a target, and then we're going to track the key result with a frequency. So it's really important that I can go into some kind of tool and say, hey, this month we have now achieved 202 customers, 200 and 300 and 400 customers over time. But key results are not happening just like that. We need to connect work to it. And work could also be a little fluffy to discuss. Sometimes we call it a project. Sometimes we call it an epic. If it's agile focused, it could be task, it could be so many things, but common for all kinds of work in a company is we have an owner. Jacob needs to do something about it. There'll be a start and finish date. He better be finished before April. And there will be a progress that I'm probably 80% done, or I spent all my money in my project. I can be red, green, yellow, etc. We will link the initiatives to the key result so that once a project is being done, the value of that project will roll up to the key result, and the key result could roll up to the objective, meaning that at the very top of the company, we'll be able to start measuring that we are like 87% done with our strategy. There are some few examples here. One objective could be our company wants to have amazing growth in the APAC region or in the Europe region. A key result to measure it will be, please close a win with a value and new deals of 1 million. So we're going to measure the objective of having revenue growth with 1 million. So we could also measure it differently, that we want to have like 40 new customers in APAC region. So that's a number versus a currency, like a number, a financial number. And we can set up many key results to one objective. And then we need to do some work to get 40 new customers in APAC. Probably we could invent some webinars. So we're going to do 3 webinars. We're going to do some marketing stuff. And we're going to do some subscription packages for some resellers. And if the subscription package for resellers are ready and deployed to the reseller, probably it will be higher chance of achieving the key results of earning more money and achieving a higher customer base in the APAC region, meaning that our amazing revenue growth in the APAC region will then reach its goal. On the other right side, we have another example of best class user experience, 80% user satisfaction in 2021, 2024, 2026. And we need to do something about it to start measuring it. So we're going to have a baseline. So that could be right now our user satisfaction is 78%, and we want to have a target of 80% user satisfaction in a year. So we need to do something about it. So we're going to run 4 customer focus group meetings. We're going to build and release some new version based on some new user experience updates of some digital apps. And then marketing going to help us do some marketing campaigns toward existing customers. So this is OKR examples where we actually could put OKR, objective key result, into place by doing some work in our company, roll it up to some key result, and then see the impact on our objectives and direction for our company. Now, with the understanding of OKR, let's put OKR into the context of the project portfolio management office. Many of you have seen triangles like this, where we have like some kind of purpose of the company, and we have an execution level. Again, we have the vision, mission, we have some strategic priorities. We can drill them down all the way to objectives and key result initiatives. But that actually means for a portfolio management office, that could be somehow difficult to understand. So let me on the left side put in the PMO, and the PMO will be responsible for some of the OKR activities. Basically, we see in Projectum that the project management officers, the PMOs, they're responsible for the execution level. So they will be responsible having project managers doing execution of projects, initiatives. It could be digital products, epics, features, user stories, but basically work that needs to be done. And then we can connect that to somehow a portfolio where we will have some strategic priorities saying that activities in this portfolio might be more important than other activities in the same portfolio. So that's where we're going to discuss at portfolio level, the strategic priorities. And then at C level, at the management level, we will have management having the ambition of the company, setting the direction, the mission, the vision, and help putting the purpose of the company into place, call it strategic priorities. And that will typically be handled by the strategic office. And we see companies, they're having more PMOs now. They have a PMO that is more responsible for execution. That might be a strategic office that are more responsible for the mission, vision, and strategic priorities of the company. Sometimes it is one PMO, sometimes it is more departments. It depends on the nature of the company. It's also important to say, okay, once we have our work structure in place with projects, programs, portfolios, OKRs, the strategy level, we need to have a tool set, and that's why we are in this webinar, to understand how tool sets could help us doing OKRs and put those connection between work in a company into place. So with Projectum XPM, anything portfolio management, we have set up many different capabilities in the system. And as you see on this slide, we can work with strategy management in the tool. We can work with portfolio management. It could also be financial management, where we have business cases that will roll up to strategy. It could be actual spend of money. So if I have a project that spent 1 million euro, I could roll up that spend of money to my strategy so that I can track performance if I'm spending the right money towards the right budget that are associated with my strategy. I could work with program management. I can connect more projects into a program. I could work with innovation management. For us in Projectum, innovation management is more directed to ideation management. So the entire intake of ideas into a portfolio, and then we could evaluate ideas against the strategy. And if the idea fits the strategy, then we could connect it to a key result. And we could then execute the idea as a project, and then we will have some progress on our strategy. It's also possible to work with product management. So if you're looking for a tool where you can put in epics, features, user story, where you can have integrations to Jira and Microsoft DevOps, Azure boards, it's also possible to create products and link them to strategy, OKR. Because if you do a strategy and you have a focus, that could be a loyalty app, right? It has a purpose to the strategy. So why not create products in the XPM tool and link those products directly to your strategy? Resource management is always important because every time we have initiatives, we might have an ambition and mission and vision for our company, but do we actually have the right resources in terms of rolling out that strategy? Maybe we'll need new competencies. Maybe we need to carve out a business unit. We get rid of some people in the organization because we don't need them anymore. We will carve them out. It could be with a merger acquisition portfolio. And then with project management, the purpose of a project is always important to understand, so that if I'm a project manager, I know the exact contribution to the strategy. Risk management, any strategy might have a risk. Right now, if I have a risk in Europe of exporting a lot of goods to the US, with the macro situation right now, we might have a risk. So having risk management put into place, I can evaluate risks against political situation, the situation in my company, technology risk, etc. But I can also match them up against my strategy. Change management. If the ambition for the company is to roll out a strategy and change my company, every strategy will also impact people in the company with a change load. So if I'm going to start a lot of new projects tomorrow, I might also overload my people in my company with a change load. So it's possible with XPM to assess all initiatives in XPM based on a ProSite change management score. And every project will have a score saying that if you're going to run this initiative, it might have this change load. Technically, change load, it could be cultural change load, so that we understand if we're going to activate all project initiatives in our ecosystem, then we can also put a high change load to the company, and that might not be beneficial. And that is important to understand if we have to change our company with a strategy, that we keep the change load at a level where people can cope with it. And then in XPM, there's a lot of different capabilities. There's a lot of features there. So I can do epics Gantt chart changes. Today, we're going to highlight in this webinar the strategic management, and we're going to look into the OKR objectives and key result of Projectum XPM. If you're looking for a more comprehensive demo that will take care of some of the other, like portfolio management, financial management, program management, etc., please reach out to us. We can always do a demo for the focus that you're looking for. For today's webinar, let's zoom in on strategy management and objectives and key results. So for that, I will bring Projectum XPM, anything portfolio management, into place. When I say anything portfolio management in today's context, I will say strategic portfolio management. So with Projectum XPM, we have created an adaptable and scalable and a tailor-made solution that can fit every PMO, every strategic office, with the capabilities of running your OKR in a Microsoft-based product. So we are right now in Microsoft ecosystem. We are in Office 365. We are working in the Microsoft Power Platform, and we are using a Power App called Projectum XPM that has been created by Projectum and can be deployed to your Office 365 tenant, meaning that all the data will also stay within your tenant, being protected, and everything is quite secure here. So for that said, I will jump into a live demo. I used to say, what can go wrong in a live demo? Let's see today. I will demonstrate the Projectum XPM product with the focus of strategic portfolio management. And let's kick it off. First of all, I'm going to present to you the Projectum XPM. In Projectum XPM, we have the possibilities of working with initiatives, portfolios, ideas, programs, risk, strategy, and we could also have an insight into reports. Today, we will only zoom in on the strategy capabilities of Projectum XPM. I'm logged in as Jacob, and based on my profile, based on my role and the authorization, I'm allowed to see the strategy of the company. I'm allowed to see all projects connected to the strategy because I'm a strategy officer. At the same time, I also have the role of being a project manager. So while I'm a project manager, I will only be able to see the project where I'm the project manager and the link to the strategy that I work with. Please bear in mind for today's demo, I have all rights that I can have in the system. I'm an administrator because that helped me very often in the demos to do demo of all the capabilities. So if you see something that is not really related to my role of being a strategic portfolio manager officer, today's demo, it's because I simply have all the rights in the system. People will only be allowed to see the strategy that they're allowed to see and the projects that they're allowed to see. On the left side in my menu, it's possible to work with portfolio, program, projects, dependencies, resources, change management assessments, and the strategy that we're going to look at today. If we look at the strategy, I can look at roadmaps. So looking at roadmaps, this is one of the tool sets in Projectum XPM where we have the transparency of everything that is happening in my company right now. So what we're looking at right now, this is the roadmap of everything that is happening in my company. So I have set up a company that is a commercial company. We are opening up a lot of new shops because we're going to sell a lot of great goods to our consumers. So what I can see in my roadmap right now for 24 and 25, first of all, I can see the timing of everything that is going to happen in my company. If I open up the products, I can see that I have some planning going on for a loyalty app. So it's a product with some agile work being epics. I can also identify that I have some new ideas coming up for some new pop-up shops. So in Paris, there's a great idea. It's a 3-star rated idea about that. If we're going to open up the pop-up shop in Paris, it might be a very, very good idea. Then I can identify that we have some pop-up shops already under construction. That's great. Some need help, some have no issues, but at least I can identify in my IT department. I can identify that I have an IT POS system upgrade, so probably we need to update the POS terminals in every shops. So I can see that I have some activities going on, and I can see that we want to install Wi-Fi in the different shops, and there is a need for having some attention. And then I have the opening of all my new shops. So please have in context of today's demo that I'm having shops that are opening up. So shops are pretty long projects where we are building a shop from scratch, where the pop-up shop is something temporary we do in a mall, maybe to the Christmas time, and then we close it down again. So a pop-up shop will be closed down after its purpose has been served. You also see that there are some dependencies between the IT activities and the Wi-Fi installation. So if IT needs to install Wi-Fi in a shop, then probably there will be a dependencies to the shop opening. So I can also identify the dependencies. And in marketing, they have a Christmas promotion campaign going on. Everything is good. I have the full transparency of everything that is happening right now in my company. But the problem here is I don't see the link to the strategy of the company. So I don't know if this work is supporting my strategy. I can identify it is work and people are probably busy, but I don't understand if it's actually supporting my strategy. So with XPM and the strategy, I could filter the exact same data based on the objectives and key results and the project connected, meaning that I could have a commercial strategy like here, just filter it this way. And if I open up my commercial strategy, I will now have a picture of I have a commercial strategy, and based on my commercial strategy, I have decided that I want a Christmas sales boost. I want to earn more money in the Christmas period. And let me just do like this. It makes it a little more simple to overview. So the Christmas sales boost is really important. I can see I'm on track with my Christmas sales boost, and I have a progress of 65%. I can also see I have an objective of your European go-to-market strategy. That means that to have my European go-to-market strategy being measured, I've added 3 key results. I want to generate 5 million of revenue for European operations. I want to increase market share in Europe by 10%. And I want to open up 15 new stores. If I focus on the Christmas sales boost, I can see that to earn more money in the Christmas period of my company, I would like to have 5 new pop-up shops created. I can identify that I'm 60% done already with it. I have the timing. I want to grow the Christmas revenue with 12 million euros. And I'm going to hire in 15 new talents for the Christmas sales, meaning that if I open up 5 new pop-up shops, I also need temporary staff to be in the shops. Once I will, after the Christmas period, close down my Christmas pop-up shops, I will lay off my temporary staff and the talents. Well, let's try to drill down to these objectives and key results and see what kind of work is behind this. And that means that I could actuate everything in my roadmap, all the work that is needed, and I could start link all stuff together. But I want to focus on the Christmas sales boost because I want to show you how the data is created, how I'm going to measure and track it, and how I'm going to link the projects to it. Because if I want to investigate my objectives and key results and then link all the way down to the work, it will be possible for me to go into the Christmas sales boost. I can identify that I have 5 key results. I can identify that they have been set up for numerical currency measurements. I can see the start and end date. I can see the baseline value and the target value, and I can see the actual realization of my strategy. So right now, I'm pretty good on track with the Christmas sales boost. Let's open up the Christmas sales boost. This is how I have set up a Christmas sales boost. Right now, I can see my strategy is active, and I can see a lot of the metadata for my objective right here, the lead, the owner, etc. If I want to highlight to senior management that I'm not on track, I could manually override and say, hey, management, I need some attention because I have a feeling, looking into all the details, that I'm not on track. So I can see each of the key results here. They are yellow, yellow, green. Either I put up an automatic rule saying if one is yellow, then I will be yellow on top. If one is red, I will be red on top. That could be an automatic rule. Out of the box, it is to be set manually. My strategy is realized by 65%, my start and end date for my strategy. And as you see here, I have a lot of ideas actually how to work with my strategy. So based on the description, grow my Christmas sales with 20%, focusing on pop-up shop concept. Based on that, I use the AI generation. So we have set up an AI use case that automatically, based on AI and the description of my objective, it has created some ideas for me as a strategic officer to go and execute my strategy. So it tells something about implement target email marketing, launch a social media influence campaign, etc. So even with duration, efforts, which role I need. So there are some creative input to me how I could do it. Maybe I already know how to do it. Maybe I've agreed with management that we're going to open up 5 new shops, so I don't need this ideation. But this is just one user example where AI could support you in the ideation process of how to break down your objective to key results. Most important right now is that I have created 5, let me just zoom in a little. Yeah. I've created 5 new pop-up shops, grow Christmas revenue with 12 million, and hire 50 new talents. We already saw that before. So let's click into the first key result of the pop-up shops. I can see that my key result is already defined. I have a target value. I have a start value. I set up a start and date for the results. Right now, I'm measuring my key result. I have a current value of 3, meaning that it will give me a realization of 60%. At any given time, I can see my direct performance here. I also see contributors to my strategy. So Oscar and Jacob are those contributors in the organization that is responsible for making this happen. This is what is important for management team. Who should we look at if we need to have some more insights? The key result has been set up as a numerical measurement. It could be percentages, it could be currencies. It has been set up with a target and with the start and due date. And most important, we see right now that the performance of our key result, our result tracker in percentages say that we actually has opened up some of the stores in percentages. I could switch it to metric measurements so that I can identify that as of October, there are 3 shops that are ready. We still need 2 shops to be opened. If I want to track a new shop opening, probably a project needs to close because I need to execute a pop-up shop project before I actually can complete my key result. So by clicking at the initiative list, I can identify which projects, initiatives in my PMO landscape that actually is connected to my strategy. In this case, there are 5 projects, pop-up shop 1 to 5. They are different performance. Here's one without any KPI set, no issues, help, need risks. And I can see in my graphs that at the situation right now, there is 1 project that need help. There are 2 projects without issues. And more important, I could also look at it from a stage that we have some projects in execution, some projects are closed. And I can drill all the way down to my performance, financial performance of my objective and key result. In this case, the project and the money of each of the projects. So I can identify that pop-up shop number 1 has associated $900,000 as a budget, and it only spent 500,000. So it's performing quite well. In this case here, I see a project, pop-up shop number 2, that has they have exceeded the associated budget, so it's probably not performing that well. But I could see that probably the entire budget is still under control because I'm not spending more money for those 3 projects because they are actually closed. Then I have 2 projects, they are not even started yet because they're not spending any money, meaning that it might be a risk. Because if they're not spending money, they are not burning any energy. And if they're not burning any energy, we need to have focus here because they need to be done before Christmas. So key takeaway is that I can drill down from the Christmas sales boost objective to the 3 key results. One of the 3 key results has linked some projects, and I can see the performance of each of the projects. So if I open up one of the project, then in XPM, I can work as a project manager managing this project. That means that I have a start and end date set. That is the start and end date that has been set by the PMO and by the strategic office, because I need to fulfill this within this time frame, else I will not support the strategy. It's also important that I can make a strategic fit, strategic impact score of my project. I can link it to the OKR, and you can also see that it has been already linked to the key result, meaning that the money, the effort, whatever I have of attributes in my project will roll up to the key result. As a project manager, I will be able to work in my timeline, doing a plan for my project. And there's already been created a plan here. So it will be a classical project schedule. where we can work with the scheduling capabilities that project manager are looking for. So this is just an example of a project schedule for the project manager, and that progress from that project schedule will roll up to the key result as a progress indicator. If we look at the financials, here we have the detailed business case for that one pop-up shop opening. So just try to do it simple. So in this case here, there is a cost structure. In this case, this is an example of an IT cost structure with internal hours, external hours. Project managers, they can work with budget, actual cost, forecast, and an estimate at completion calculation. And these numbers could roll up to the key result. It's also possible to work with risk management. So if I'm a project manager and I want to work with risk management, I could go in and say, create 10 risk for a pop-up shop in a mall. Great. And as a project manager, AI could help me creating risks that will identify issues, opportunities for my one project. And these risk opportunities could also roll up to the objective so that I can identify risk at the level of my key results. So here you see negative feedback, poor location choice. If I open up poor location choice, then AI has also come up with a small mitigation proposal, research small layout and foot traffic patterns. Okay, so this could help me mitigate this risk. Every time my project is being executed, the project manager will create a status report. So it will mean that the project manager can go in, create a status report for every week with KPI indicators, and those KPI indicators will roll up to the roadmap that we saw earlier so that I can see if I have an objective, if I have a key result, if the project is linked, I can also see the detailed performance of the project supporting my key result. And that means that I could go in, I could select today's date, I could make a bi-weekly report, I could let AI write my text, I could identify everything is red or maybe yellow. I can see then my last reporting and I can save my performance report for my project. And now, if I want to communicate to my stakeholder, I can go in and I could choose to run my status report as a PowerPoint. So automatically, I will take a PowerPoint of your choice in your company's color with the layout that you have decided in your PMO, that this is the way that you want to report your project performance to your portfolio office. Meaning that this report will be available for people also looking at key results and objectives to see the detailed performance of each project. So it will be possible to create with one click a PowerPoint that will show all projects that support your key result and your objective. So imagine that you have one PowerPoint with a slide of every project that is supported by the objective and the key result. And with one click, I can open up my PowerPoint. And if I go into the details of the PowerPoint, I can see that with today's date, I have a PowerPoint. And I can identify on my front page that everything is red. I can also identify the total budget of $900,000. We also saw that on the key result level. I can see my risk I just created. I can see highlight from the next upcoming 5 milestones. I can see the list of all reports, detailed risk, also detailed about my money in my business case. I could see the S-curve of burnt money versus actuals. Everything directly available in Projectum XPM, which makes it quite easy for everyone that are looking for strategy to see the detailed performance of all projects linked directly into the key result. So just coming back here to conclude, instead of looking at work in a company that has no link to strategy, and I'll just filter it this way, then with all that kind of work being done, I will identify the work, but I do not know how it supports my strategy. By looking at the strategy first, it will be possible for me this way to have a objective and key result angle, see the performance, and then see all the projects that are actually supporting my strategy. And with that, I will conclude the demo. And thank you for listening in. If you have any interest in understanding further how Projectum could help you with Projectum XPM to set up your objective and key result, then please contact Projectum, contact any of our partners out there. On Projectum webpage, you can go to the section of where we have the partner, and we also have a list of all partners globally that could support you in your local region with setting up objective key result with Projectum XPM. And please notice that if you are running Viva goals, if you have Viva goals already running with OKRs, Microsoft has announced that it will be end of life, and you need to migrate to another tool. Projectum XPM is the perfect choice to move in because we have already out of the box created the capabilities of OKR and Projectum XPM. So with that said, thank you for today and have a great day. Bye-bye.